someone who believes in what's called deliberative democracy, so that the best ideas happen when all views are presented. And so in order to have all views presented, that means that we need to talk to people who are different from ourselves. And there's a lot of evidence that good things happen when we do that. However, if we look at reality, we see that sometimes that's hard, that people have problems doing that, or that it happens in not the best way or not in the most ideal situations. So what I want to study is how can we get people to do that, and how can we do that with good outcomes? I would argue societal trends that do make that problem more of an issue. And in particular, it's increases in what we call affective polarization. So affective polarization is how much we dislike the other side. And we've seen that this is something that's been occurring for a really long time, and it continues to get worse. There also are individuals who would argue that there's technology trends that also contribute to this, in particular social media, that the prevalence of social media is something that's made this worse. What I actually find is that it's our traditional media use, so high usage of television news, and also talking to people who are like you, are the primary drivers of this increase in affective polarization. Social media actually can be associated with a decrease in affective polarization over time because we have those interactions with people who are unlike us, but it happens in a way that's seen as more safe. What we're seeing now is more of this idea of news finds me, is a way that we see many people seek out information, and when news finds you, misinformation also finds you. And that is something that harms how we talk about politics, because we aren't talking about the same facts anymore. When everyone has different facts, it's going to be harder for us to talk to each other and to be able to reach some sort of compromise. So in particular, what I want to look at is how comments under news articles influence trust in media organizations. There's been research that's looked at that and looks at how that affects attitudes, how it affects beliefs in sort of the importance of the issues that are being discussed, but nobody had looked at how that impacts the media organizations themselves. And so the first study that I did looked at whether or not there was differences in whether or not we saw positive comments, negative comments, or no comments underneath a news article. So essentially, does comments matter? And the answer is yes, comments do matter. What I saw there, something that I'm very optimistic about, is that the media comments actually didn't have an effect on trust in comparison to no comments. So if people are just lambasting the media, that doesn't appear to matter, but it is when people are making more specific comments about you can't trust this story or you can't trust this author, there's something wrong with this, that does have an impact. So the types of research that I'm looking in going forward is staying in this track, because everything does change. Everything is going to continue to evolve. And so continuing to try to look at what are ways that we can improve our discussion, especially as we're in a constantly changing media environment. So, what's TikTok? How is TikTok going to influence politics? I haven't looked at that yet, but I bet, it's going to have some sort of influence and somebody needs to look at it.